Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Grants 101 webinar for our Spring 2021 grant application. I'm Michelle Zietler. I'm the Director of Programs and Operations for Expect Miracles Foundation, and today I'm joined by Samantha Watson, Managing Director of Stewardship and founder of the Samfund, as well as Brooke Gentry, our Program Assistant for Samfund Programs. And we're just going to be walking you through the process. We do have a brand new application this cycle, which we think is going to make life a lot easier for everybody, give you easier access to your submission, both now and in the future if you're coming back again, be able to just log in and access all of that stuff, which is going to be really helpful. But in the meantime, we're just, again, going to be sort of taking you through the process and hopefully address some of your more frequently asked questions. And you can always contact us directly if you need. So I'm going to hand it off to Sam to talk a little bit about the process, about the organization. Sam, take it away.
Thanks, Michelle. So for those of you who have been part of the Samfund and our grants program over the years, you probably noticed there was a slightly new logo on that first slide and on the bottom of this one. So we wanted to just take a minute to explain to anyone who is confused that in July of 2019, the Samfund officially joined forces with another cancer organization called Expect Miracles Foundation. It's similarly a 501c3 organization that rallies the financial services industry and beyond to invest in life-saving cancer research while advancing the financial and emotional health of people impacted by cancer. That is a mouthful. What it means is that we were very fortunate pre-pandemic to join forces with a like-minded organization because our goal on both sides was really to be able to do more. And so we were very fortunate to do it when we did, because I think it served both organizations well in this past year, which has been really challenging. But for those of you who have followed the Samfund over the years, we can reassure you that our grants program remains entirely intact. Our commitment to helping young adults move forward financially after cancer treatment is exactly as it's always been. So it's just under a different umbrella, but our grants still are designed to provide support to young adults who are struggling because cancer is expensive. And so through this grants program, as well as online support, education, and community, we are here to support you. And our hope, as always, is to be able to do even more going forward and help even more of you than we've been able to in the past. So we wanted to take a couple of minutes just to explain what these grants are about. And for those of you who might be listening to the webinar on behalf of someone else, if you're a parent or a caregiver or medical provider, we wanted to explain why these grants are here so that you can explain it to the young adults in your lives who might be thinking about applying. So everybody listening to this knows, as well as we do, that cancer isn't free. And the costs of cancer go far beyond just the doctor's bills themselves. So when anybody, and especially a young adult, goes through cancer treatment, their savings accounts, which probably were limited to begin with, can be depleted by the end of treatment. They've had to spend time away from work. The cost of COBRA or insurance premiums is astronomical, and so is the cost of prescription copays. And this is just a short list. The cost of cancer even extends beyond these few things. But the purpose of the grants is really to provide some relief from these immediate financial pressures so that young adults instead can spend the time, the energy, the money that they have on moving forward towards their goals. And beyond the financial relief alone, our goal is really to help survivors feel more motivated, more supported, and more empowered, because it's a really uncomfortable thing to have to ask for help, especially once cancer treatment is done and you look healthy and everybody thinks that you're fine. It's that much harder to reach out for help. But we know that that's also when the bills pile up. And so our grants are really here as sort of a bridge to help young adults get from the end of treatment and the immediate aftermath to whatever goals they're pursuing for themselves, whether it's living independently, going back to school, starting a family. Our goal is really to help them take that next step. So this is a tricky question. We get asked a lot, how much do you typically award in grants every year? And the short answer is that it totally depends. And you can see just from the last 5 years how we sort of fluctuated up and down. A lot depends on our fundraising. A lot depends on how many applications we receive. So you'll also see that the number of grants, in addition to the amount that we award, can fluctuate. But we're really, really proud to say that 2020 was the year of our greatest impact to date. So over the last 5 years, we've hovered somewhere around 117,000 in 2017, as high as 276,000 in 2019. But in 2020, we were able to provide over $450,000 in grants, which actually amounted to 333 grants. Part of the reason that we were able to do that was because we had merged with Expect Miracles, and because we were able to sort of combine forces and leverage our communities and fundraise even more. The reason why the number of grants went up so much was that we actually instituted 2 new grant cycles last year called the Samfund COVID-19 Emergency Fund. So when the pandemic started in March, we had a hunch that young adults who were struggling financially because of cancer before that were about to struggle even more. And so we were able to pivot and sort of get ahead of that by providing one-time rent or mortgage payments to young adults who were at risk of losing their home. And so most of those grants focused on young adults who were struggling both because of cancer and also because of COVID-19. So we'll talk a little bit more about those grants and what they were for and sort of how that's informed our grant cycle going forward. But we're really proud that we were able to do as much as we were in 2020, and our hope is that we'll be able to do a lot this year as well. So the average grant size tends to be between $1,500 and $2,000. Brooke's going to talk a little bit about what these grants are for this time. And for those of you who have been with the Samfund for a lot of years, you'll notice that we've had to make some changes temporarily. And so she'll talk a little bit about what that means. But still, our average grant size remains around $1,500 to $2,000. So I'm going to turn it over to Brooke now to tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Sam. So if you are interested in applying this grant cycle for spring of 2021, you will need to meet these eligibility requirements. These requirements haven't changed from our past grant cycles if you have applied with us in the past. But again, you'll need to be a resident of the U.S. You'll need to be between the ages of 21 and 39 at the time of your application submission. So by February 2nd, 2021, which is the due date for this grant application. And you will need to meet one of the following treatment status criteria. You could be finished with planned treatment with no evidence of disease, 1 year following the completion of planned therapy with stable disease, or in remission and on a long-term hormonal therapy, for example, tamoxifen for breast cancer survivors, or a long-term targeted therapy like Gleevec. And also note that individuals who received the grant in fall of 2020, which was our most recent past grant cycle, must skip one cycle and wait until fall of 2021 to reapply. However, those who received emergency COVID funding in fall of 2020 can apply this grant cycle. We also have some new eligibility requirements in addition to our traditional ones. So this grant cycle, because of funding limitations due to the pandemic, we just want to be able to increase and expand our impact and fund as many people as possible. And so because of that, we are instituting the following criteria. Applicants must be diagnosed within the past 5 years. That's on or after January 6, 2016, or the only exception to this is if you are currently receiving, applying for, or appealing a disability decision. So if you were diagnosed earlier than 5 years ago, you can still apply if you, like I said, are receiving disability, applying for disability, or appealing a disability decision, and you can provide the paperwork for that. We also will prioritize applicants who can demonstrate the financial impact of cancer as well as COVID-19, and applicants must not be listed as a dependent on someone else's taxes this grant cycle. If for any reason you don't meet any of this criteria right now, please feel free to still reach out to us via phone or email, and we could pass along other resources that might be able to help you. This grant cycle, we will be funding rent or mortgage assistance only. In the past, we have covered a broad range of expenses. However, in order to fund the most people and cover the category of most designated need, which is housing, we will just be funding one-time rent or mortgage requests up to $2,000. If your rent or mortgage for 1 month is less than $2,000 and you are selected for funding, you will be funded the amount that is listed on your lease or your mortgage statement for 1 month. And what do we look for in an applicant? So good candidates for a grant are able to articulate how their cancer experience and COVID-19 have impacted their current financial situation. These will be in the form of short essays. Good candidates also have immediate financial needs and are not able to get financial assistance from any other source, such as friends or family. Good candidates for a grant are also struggling financially as a result of their cancer treatment and COVID. For example, you may have lost wages in your household from someone being laid off because of COVID. You may have high medical bills or dealing with financial repercussions of treatment aftermath. Your work ability may be limited. You may be dealing with side effects, etc. For the essay questions, it's not necessary for you to be a great writer. It's just most important that you answer the questions thoroughly. So what do you need to apply? To apply for a grant with us, you will just need to provide some basic personal and contact information, some information about your diagnosis and treatment, your current financial picture, which includes monthly expenses and income, assets, and liabilities. And then besides that, the only outside form that someone else needs to sign, unless you complete an affidavit, is the medical history verification form. That form can be filled out and signed by a medical practitioner who has access to your records and can verify your diagnosis and when you were treated. And so you would just send that form to your oncologist, to your doctor's office. Anyone can fill it out as long as they have a license number and, like I said, can verify your course of treatment diagnosis. They would fill it out, they would return that form to you, and then you would upload that form directly into your application. And then the other forms we require are recent tax forms. We accept 1040s from the past 2 years. If for some reason you did not file taxes in either of the past 2 years, you will need to complete an affidavit explaining why, and that affidavit will need to be signed by at least one witness, though it does not need to be notarized. And then besides that, we will also need the name and address of the landlord or mortgage holder to whom the grant would be paid, as we pay all of our grants directly to payees.
Great. Thank you, Brooke. Really helpful.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to hand it off to Michelle, who will go more in depth on our new application portal, which will make everything a lot easier. So I'll give it to you, Michelle.
Great. Thank you. So again, for those of you who have applied before, you're still going to go to the same spot on our website in order to get the link to apply. That'll just have some general information there. You may be watching this webinar directly from that page. So once you've watched this, you can just click right in to start an application. To register for an account, you'll see the link there. There'll actually be 2 links on the website. One is for folks who are applying with us for the first time. And the other link is for folks who have previously applied for a grant, whether or not you were funded, and then you will go to that link because you're already going to be sort of in our system. So it's very easy to set up your registration. I'll show you a screenshot of that shortly, but basically you're just going to enter your name and your email and a password, and that's it. You can log back in anytime you want to check on your submission. If you're in the middle of your application, you can save it, log back out, come back to it later when you've got your forms ready or whenever. And then also after you've submitted, you can log back in periodically. You can check to see if there are any status updates, although again, we're going to notify everybody in mid-March whether or not they've been funded, but you can log in and take a peek anytime you want. You can go back and reread your responses. All that stuff will be there for you to access. So from there, you're just going to read the instructions carefully, answer all the questions as best and completely as you can. And then once you do submit your application, you do want to make sure you still received an email notification. Again, you can always log back in and look at the status of your application. You should be able to see that it's been submitted up there. But if there's any question, you'll want to give us a call just to make sure. So this is what that first page looks like. So you'll see for new applicants, you're just going to complete that form right there, creating your password. If you end up at this link, even if you are a previous applicant, you can go near to the bottom there under sign up. Those previous applicants and recipients are already in our system. You can just reset your password. And then if you are already in the middle of an application and you're working on it, then just all the way to the bottom, click here to log in, and you'll get back to your submission that you're working on. So if for some reason you find that you get one of these error messages here and you're unable to move forward to complete an application, you may not be eligible. You may also have just filled something out incorrectly. That happens all the time. Sometimes people go to put in their date of birth. They put in, their month and the date of their birth, but they put in this year by accident. So sometimes you just got to go back and take another quick look. You can always go back again to our website to check out the eligibility requirements. On the application itself, there's a whole frequently asked questions section that outlines all of that. And if you feel that you do meet those correct requirements and you still can't move forward, then you want to email us and we'll try to help you figure out what's going on. So I'll just speak briefly about the forms. The medical history verification form we actually posted on our website we posted it early prior to the time that the application was opening to give people a little bit of a jump start on that. If you're on our email list, you would have been notified about that. So that's something, if you haven't done so already, you're going to want to go ahead and either download it from the website or get right into that application. It's early on in the application form for you to be able to download it and get it to your doctor or your clinician as soon as possible. Again, as Brooke said, just a licensed clinician who can verify your diagnosis and treatment. It could be a nurse, it could be your primary care doctor, it could be an oncologist, it doesn't need to be, it could even be a social worker, but you're going to want to get that to somebody who can return it to you pretty quickly so that you can upload it to your application. You can even take a picture of it to upload it there. So it's pretty straightforward, but we do need to make sure that it's filled out completely. So if your doctor hands you back a form and it's not filled out completely, please ask them to actually go ahead and make sure all of the fields are filled out, their license number, all of that stuff, because if it's incomplete, we're going to have to send it on back. And if you need help uploading it, you can always email us. And the form is required before your application can be submitted. Please don't upload any blank forms and just say, it's coming, and then try to submit your application. It won't be considered complete. So please do wait for that form and make sure it's attached before you submit. And as far as the tax returns and the affidavit, so basically we need information from the last 2 years, so that'll be 2018 and 2019. So if you file taxes both of those years, you should have copies of Form 1040s from both tax returns. They're each either 1 page or 2 pages, depending. For 2018, a lot of them are 1 page, sometimes 2. For 2019, I think they were all 2 pages. But you're going to want to include those 2 pages for each year. Or if for some reason you can't find a copy of your tax return, you can go online to irs.gov. You can request a tax transcript from that year, which is a few pages long. You can submit the first 2 pages of that, and that's fine as well. If you didn't file taxes in both of those years, you either filed in 1 year or you filed in neither year, then we're going to ask you to download and submit an affidavit. It's just a sworn statement indicating why you didn't file taxes. It asks if you earned income during that time, just to write down what it was. You're just going to sort of edit it to reflect your own personal situation. You're not going to need to fill out every line in there. It just makes room for a lot of different possibilities. But essentially, we just want to know what your situation was, if you earned any money during that time, and then you would sign it, and you would also have at least 1 witness, preferably 2, sign it. Normally, in non-COVID times, we ask applicants to have that form notarized by a notary public. But given the current situation, we're not going to have anybody need to leave their house in order to get somebody to stamp the form. So for submitting your forms, if you have a difficulty uploading them yourself, you can always send them to us. Our our email address and our fax number are both listed here on this slide. But we just say, please send in any forms no later than January 29th to make sure that we're able to upload them in time. But again, you can take photos of those documents to upload them. The only tricky part, I'll just go back here to the tax returns. We ask you to submit the first 2 pages of those forms, but we do need them all in one file. So this is something we're hoping to be able to fix for subsequent grant cycle, but for the time being, you need to take both of those pages and actually have them together in one file. And if that's not something you know how to do, you can give us a call or shoot us an email, and we can kind of talk you through that, or we can combine them for you, and then you can go ahead and upload them. So this is just something for you to be able to see. This is, again, another picture of the general portal there. So the application you see is all the way on the left. So when you're clicked in there, you're going to be answering the questions. Review application responses is something you're going to be able to look at after the fact. You're not going to see anything in there as you're filling it out, but for later on, you can go through and review your responses. But as you're going through and completing the application, if you want to make sure that your documents uploaded, you can click on review documents, and you can see I just uploaded 3 sort of silly dummy documents in here, but one of them might be the medical history form, one might be the 2018 tax forms, and one might be the 2019 tax forms, and that way I can see that they were all successfully uploaded. Also, if you log out and then you go to log back in, you can see here to resume your application, you just click on continue application. Again, you can pop right back in. So that's basically it. Again, you can sort of see, again, generally what this looks like. It's pretty easy to navigate. Again, they have these sort of big purple buttons here letting you know where to go. But, if you have questions about anything, please be sure to ask us before you go ahead and submit. We cannot make changes to your applications after you've submitted, but we're always happy to provide some feedback or assistance for you in advance of the time that you actually submit. And unfortunately, we cannot consider any incomplete applications. In terms of incorrect forms, we do have a little bit of a window. You'll see in the application instructions, there's a little bit of a window after the deadline where for anything that looks like sort of a small error or mistake on a form, something that's missing, something that needs to be clarified, we do try our best to go back to our applicants to let them know and give them a heads up if something needs to be resolved. We want everybody who submits to have their application reviewed. We know how much time it takes, and we don't want to have to just say to somebody, I'm sorry, we can't review your application because there was a small mistake in there. So, you may hear from us in the days after the deadline, and we would give you a small window to get something back to us if it was needed. We try to do that, again, because we know how hard you work to do this and how important it is. So we do our best as well to try to make that happen. So the timeline here, just to review again, the application will be available starting on Wednesday, January 6th. The deadline is Tuesday, February 2nd at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, not Central Time, not Mountain Time, not Pacific Time. It's Eastern Time, Boston time. We're in Boston. So after 5 o'clock here, unfortunately, the application will be shut down. It will not be accessible. If you're in the middle of your application and it's 5 o'clock, unfortunately, you will not be able to submit. So please take note of that. Try to get going early, particularly on those forms. And we're going to notify everybody about the status of their application by the middle of March. So we try to turn this around as quickly as we can. The fact that you're all making the same requests for housing expenses actually makes this process go a lot faster. That's another benefit to doing it this way. The other thing that I'll just mention about the requests, we do realize, and we'll probably talk a little bit about some questions that people tend to ask pretty frequently around this process. And for some right now, rent or mortgage might not be your most pressing expense. However, our feeling is because it tends to be people's largest household bill, that if that's something that we're able to take off your plate for a month, you can kind of reallocate, rearrange your finances to cover whatever that thing is that you really, really need, whether it's your car payment or a medical bill or whatever it is. That in a sense, you relieve the burden of one bill and allows you to pay another. So that's sort of the thinking behind that, is that, again, for most people, that's their biggest need. For most people, it's their biggest bill. For those of you who maybe rent from a friend or a family member, obviously this excludes you, which is, it's not ideal. And again, this is something that we expect that we'll be doing temporarily. And so we're really sorry to those of you who fall into that category. Certainly we've run into that before, but it does need to be somebody who's not a friend or family member who is either renting you your apartment or your house, and certainly the mortgage would have to be in your name or the name of, say your partner if you share expenses together. Sam, Brooks, can you think of any other common questions that we should be addressing while we're wrapping up here?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brooke.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, for those of you whose rent or mortgage might be greater than $2,000, we do have $2,000 as the max. So in order to provide assistance to as many people as possible, $2,000 is the max we're able to provide. So if, for example, your rent was $2,100, we would do a partial payment of $2,000, and you would be responsible for covering the remaining $100.
Great, thank you, Brooke. And in that vein, if your rent is $800, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to fund you for 2+ months of rent. It's still just going to be a one-time, 1 month rent or mortgage payment. I think you had mentioned that before. I was just clarifying.
So the only other thing that I would add is about how applicants can get help, because we've been doing this for almost 20 years, and every single grant cycle without exception, we get frantic calls at 4:59 on the due date, and they are our least favorite calls of the whole year. And so what we would like to encourage you guys to do is take a look through the application and start early, download the forms, and take a look through it. And it shouldn't take a lot of time to fill in the information, but it might take a little bit of time for your doctor to get back to you with a signed form, or it might take a little bit of time for you to find your 1040s or get the affidavit signed. So start early, and if you have questions, please reach out to us by email. It is the quickest way to get an answer. And the earlier you email us, the earlier we can email you back, and the less the chances become of you needing to call us in a panic a minute before the application's due. So we want you to succeed. We want you to submit a successful application, and we want you to feel good about it. And we're here to help you. We just ask that you please start early. And if you need help, please reach out by email first.
Yes, that's a great piece of advice. As with many other businesses right now, our office is closed. We are all working remotely. So the phone, it does ring to a remote location, but it's certainly faster and easier, and multiple people can be checking the emails as they come in. So email is definitely the way to go in terms of getting the quickest response. Terrific. The only other thing that I will mention again, because again, right now we're trying to make sure that we are able to fund still a significant number of people, significant percentage of people that are applying to us, given everything going on right now, that we did, for the time being, once again, prioritize people who were diagnosed within the last 5 years, or folks who are, either receiving or at some point in the disability process. And we do recognize that there are people that fall outside of that won't be eligible this time around, and we are sorry for that. Again, hoping that is a temporary situation. Again, just trying to prioritize folks who are most likely to have the greatest need, and in this instance, it's folks who are probably most recently out of treatment. So again, not to say that there aren't folks with, enormous need who can fall outside of that, but for the time being, we did feel it necessary to put that additional restriction. I will also say, for anybody who's interested in family building, we've gotten lots of calls and emails about when we're going to be bringing back our family building grant cycle. Unfortunately, it's not going to be this spring, but we do hope, depending on the world and what's happening, that we may be able to do that next fall. So no promises yet on that, but do please check back with us. And in the meantime, on our website, we do have a great resource list for other family building resources. So I think that's about it for now. Again, please reach out with any questions. We wish everybody the best of luck. Again, that deadline is Tuesday, February 2nd at 5 p.m. Eastern. And we wish you all the best of luck. So please email, check out the website, and we hope that this new application works really well for everybody. We'd love your feedback. All right. Thanks so much, everyone.